The Golf GTI is a curious case, ranging over 7 generations. The Mark I, Mark II, and Mark III were very good driver's cars and good at performing. But the issue with the Mark IV and Mark V was they just weren't fun. They lacked that thing that made a GTI a GTI. But Volkswagen brought that back with the Mark VI. They really made that car stand out, be very fun, handle, oversteer, do everything you want in a little hot hatch. The Mark VII improved upon that, with the Mark VII being out for a very long time now, with little updates, one being the Mark 7.5. It's a very interesting case to see how good it is nowadays. This is a 2020 GTI with its little 2-liter turbo, producing enough horsepower to get from 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds. It is a very interesting car today because it's not as powerful as many of the other cars and it's not as fast, but it sure packs a punch.
The 2020 GTI has Volkswagen's readily available 2-liter turbo engine with 228 horsepower at 4,700 RPMs and 258 foot-pounds of torque at 1,500 RPMs, fed through 6-speed manual gearbox. This thing might not have a lot of power, but it surprisingly is very quick and very capable for what it has. The car also only weighs 3,000 pounds and it has a wheelbase of 103 inches. So on paper, this should be a very, very capable little hot hatch. The GTI comes with a 225 square tire setup, which isn't very wide, but for a car that only weighs 3,000 pounds, this gives it a decent contact patch and will allow it to have decent performance on the road.
Although this car isn't very powerful, it really does move once you get up and go. Once you really get up in the higher RPMs, that turbo kick, it does not hold back. It's a pretty quick little car, especially when you're on a decent back road like this. It's a fun little machine. It has a very nice power band that starts off as good torque down low at like 2,500 RPM. And you can really have a lot of fun with this car, just keeping it around 3,000 RPM. Because the thing is, second gear winds out at 70 miles per hour in this car. It is a tall gear. This car is geared really, really tall. So you can't really use the entire engine on a back road. So it's really nice that it has torque to actually stay up to speed. And if you just drive it like a momentum car, like how it is, you can have a lot of fun with this little thing. The interior of this car is really interesting because although it's over 5 years old, this Mark 7 generation, it still feels very new. They've done a really good job keeping it up to date. The best way for me to describe this engine is it's effective. It is very effective at its job. It's not insanely powerful, but it doesn't need to be. In fact, this car in sport mode with the sport suspension on, it can keep up with most cars on back road. You can easily fine a tune to bump this thing up to 350, 400 horsepower if you really wanted to. I don't know why you would want to do that because it takes away from the fun of the GTI. But if you want to, you can. The steering feels very nice. It's kind of vague, but it is direct, and it gets its job done. The tail end is a little bit oversteered, which is very nice. The other thing that Volkswagen did really well in this car is the stability control. I do not like modern stability control. I really think it's the devil. But in most modern Volkswagens, Audis, Porsches, when you turn it off, you hold the traction control button down, deactivates stability control, or at least most of it, and it deactivates the front assist, the frontal collision assist. And this car will actually let you get out to about a 45-degree slide before it will jump in and try to save the car for you. So you can actually have a lot of fun with this little thing. You can slide around as much as you want, and if it gets out of hand, the car will save you, but if it doesn't, you can actually have a fair bit of fun with it. It doesn't interfere when you try to do a handbrake turn. It doesn't interfere when you're really moving on back roads. And it honestly be a pretty good little system for track use. This is one car where the adjustable suspension, the adjustable settings that the car gives you actually are pretty good. The comfort mode in this car is not bad. It really dampens out the bumps and everything, but it still keeps the car pretty well planked to the ground, and it keeps it handling very well. And then when you put in sport mode, it's not bad. It's pretty decent. I don't like how it changes the steering rate and the throttle response and everything like that, but what it does have is a custom mode. So you can put in whatever settings you like for those. Right now I have the sport suspension on, I have the normal throttle response and normal steering, and the car feels great. You still get a fair bit of body roll with the sport suspension on it, but it's not terrible, and you can generally have some fun with it. And even in comfort mode is very nice because it dampens out the bumps, but it doesn't do it too much, so it's pretty good. The things that I don't like, this clutch, it's very light. It's definitely more biased towards a daily driver and not a performance car. Brake pedal is also pretty light, and then the one thing that really gets me is this gas pedal. This gas pedal being hinged at the top, it does not extend down far enough to really heel-toe downshift with this car. You get into this awkward position where your big toes on the brake pedal, you're trying to get enough pressure on that, and then your pinky toes on the gas pedal, and you're trying to blip it a little bit. You can do it, and once you get the hang of it, you can do it pretty well, but it's not ideal. It's kind of awkward. It's kind of weird to deal with. The other thing I'd really like to see in this car is a different ramp angle in the LSD. Because the issue with this LSD is it does not lock up enough when you're accelerating out of tight corners. You get a lot, if you're not careful, you will get a lot of wheel spin on the inside front wheel. If it had just a little bit more ramp angle on that lifted slip differential, it would lock up a bit better and you wouldn't have that problem. But that is just a minor inconvenience. It's not a huge deal. For what it is, this is a little package that you could genuinely daily drive and take to the track and have a lot of fun with. This manual transmission, it's butter. It is buttery smooth. It's very precise, very easy to grab your gears, and you don't really need a short shifter for this transmission. It's good just how it is, which is not something you can say for all manuals. And once you get this car up into the higher RPMs, we can do a little pull here. This engine really likes to sing. It loves the high RPMs. Redline's at 7,000, but it does drop off a bit. Horsepower drops off a bit after 6,000 RPM. So really the ideal point to shift is around 6, although you can rev it out to 7, but there really is no reason to on this engine. The DSG version of this car is very impressive in a straight line for what it is. It goes 0 to 60 over a second faster than the manual. But nothing beats a manual. It's just so much fun with the manual. You have to have it. The steering rack is the perfect ratio for this thing. And these seats actually hold you in your place pretty well. This is the Autobahn package, so this does have the 18-inch wheels, and it has a decent all-season tire that grips pretty well for what it is. It's honestly pretty impressive how much this all-season grips. I'll tell you what, this is one of those cars that really nothing can keep up with it on the rough back road. It is genuinely really impressive to drive in the twisties. You need a really technical back road in order to be the fastest on it. But this car just lives for it. It is a joy to drive. It's one of those cars where you don't really think it's going to be super impressive, and you don't really have high expectations for it. But once you get in it and you drive it, there's really not much else that can compare. It's just done so well.
The GTI is still one of those performance cars that you just have to experience. It will never fail to leave a smile on your face. It is a machine that can be easily driven to the track, have a set of sticky tires thrown on it, and go all day. This is one of those cars that you just have to try.